This mother's effort was all shattered after being kicked out at the water park. It started as a fun day out with the entire family. That's why it was such a shock that on the same day she would get all angry and embarrassed. The kids who were playing near her were not her concern. It wasn't even the expensive tickets to the water park and the delicate food in there. This situation was more critical than anything of such. This woman was at most in the water for a couple of minutes when she immediately pushed out. And of course, she wasn't letting this slip. Madeline Schaefer from Odessa, Missouri is a dedicated mother. She's precisely the type of woman who will do everything in her power to make sure her family has been very well cared for. When she was in her mid-30s, it seems that something major happened. It wasn't too much to say that her entire life was ruined. 7 years later, and several workers were trying to remove all her work and effort at that water park. She had already been through all of it, honestly. Hard times are an understatement. You could only visualize that anything that actually occurred wasn't really good for a water park to directly impact her the way it also had. Madeline learned so much about herself back in 2005, which also had her rethink all her decisions in life. Since slipping and falling into the water as she bent over to give herself a bath, she had been struggling from a slipped disc. Nor did her lifestyle benefit her body either. She made the decision moments later that she already had enough. This would be the period of time she came to realize that it was time she made changes. Almost all of the suffering from the slipped disc is more than enough to alter one's path. Upon the incident, emergency workers showed up before you even knew it. Madeline was in so much pain that she never wished to be moved. She also sent off the reporters, and she just lay in the bathtub for a few days. As she was spending more time there, her entire body was overtaken by a sense of comfort. This was absolutely not part of her plan. She came to the realization that she must have overlooked herself too much in her effort to provide for the rest of her family. Madeline stated, "That should have been the first sign for me that I needed to lose weight, but it took me another year before I made the decision to do something." Something extraordinary occurred, though, when she finally was able to muster all of her self-control and endurance. She reached the unbelievable milestone 2 years later. She lost 100 pounds. It had been a drastic change in her life. She was still in good form 5 years after all this. She had no idea she was about to engage in one of her life's most significant battles. She had weighed 170 pounds at the age of 43. Madeline was more confident than she had ever been and felt in the best form that she could have been. This mother decided one very hot day to do something she had never planned to do. She knew her body was anything but ideal. Still, she opted to wear a new black bikini and go to Adventure Oasis water park with her family. Well, while they were there, things went downhill pretty dramatically. Madeline glanced at the people's bodies all through the water park, from young to old. She had absolutely no jealousy towards them. She was satisfied with how she looked at that point. For a good reason, though. She had been trying too hard to make it come to reality. She knew next to nothing that somebody was watching her secretly. Losing weight is especially challenging if you're overweight, and not to mention building confidence to wear a bikini. Since losing weight is not guaranteed to gain confidence, it's still a work in progress. Madeline felt very confident about herself, but that'd be revoked shortly afterwards. She put away her towel and sat down a little while before going into the cold water. She was in there for just 5 minutes before 2 female employees confronted her. They started telling Madeline something she wouldn't be able to digest as quickly as possible. Squinting at them into the sunlight, Madeline asked them to repeat what they had tried to say. Perhaps she just misunderstood them. She was, at any rate, genuinely surprised by what the staff had said. She just couldn't believe what they told her. One of the staff members grunted and retold her what she said. She specifically told Madeline she was sporting a bikini that was too small and inappropriate. "This is a family park," she further explained to her. "How could this be valid?" She'd got full bikini bottoms on after all. She was so puzzled when she looked around at the water park for all the other women. Most of them wore swimwear that is way too revealing than hers. Something was clearly entirely off the mark here. Her feelings were everywhere, and her expression did nothing to conceal all of them. After hearing the female employee's statement about her appearance, Madeline could not shake the feeling of utter embarrassment and shame. It felt like she was totally violated. After contemplating for a few months, though, she managed to get her head in the right place. Instead, she began to feel upset. "I was embarrassed for a second, and then it was no way," she disclosed. She had worked extremely hard to have such a breakdown from such women. "My body is different than the young girls that were walking around in their bikinis, but why should I be made ashamed of my body?" As per Madeline. She continued to say, "I'm comfortable in my bikini. I'm happy with who I am. My first reaction was, why are you singling me out? They said that my bottoms were inappropriate. That was funny to me because they are full-size bottoms. People come in all shapes and sizes, should be in a position to embrace their bodies and not be ashamed." She turned around and looked at the employees. They kept staring at her body with their eyes judging up and down. If that happened a few years ago, Madeline knew that she would be too scared to speak up for herself. Anyway, it now actually occurred. She thought it's high time she turned the tables. It was, a matter of fact, clear that for no valid reasons they treated her differently. Her self-esteem would not be worn down. She had been developing her confidence for too long, and she wanted it to last. Even so, the disrespectful young women still refused to let it go. They started telling Madeline that only two possibilities were available. Either she can just wear a pair of shorts on her bikini bottoms, or she should leave. Naturally, she would be angry and demand to talk with their supervisor. "Well, I'm not covering up," she blatantly told them. She then went on to say, "And if you expect me to leave, you had better call the police and have them escort me out." Apart from feeling inferior to being directly called out, she felt that she was speaking up for all women. Shortly afterwards, police officers made their way to the water park to kick her out, much to her disappointment. 15 minutes later, the police did arrive and said that while they did not agree, they had to do their job. "We can't actually say anything," they said as we walked outside, "but I hope from the expressions on our face you can tell how we feel." Madeline said in the Facebook post she uploaded, they were compassionate. They too thought it was ridiculous. Her post, of course, got a lot of attention. In today's society, the police will soon learn what should and should not be allowed. "I am a 43-year-old woman who did not have the confidence of the body to put on a bikini until I was 40 years old," Madeline added in her post. She made a point of saying, "I will not be discriminated against because I look too good in one." She explained in detail this was not a thong. It was a standard summertime two-piece string bikini, the same as everyone else who felt confident enough in their body to wear one. No matter what type of body other people have in the same situation, they shouldn't have been treated in such an unequal manner. "I felt like it was both age and body discrimination, and I felt like I could look around me and I could see a handful of other girls half my age wearing the same size swimming suit and not being singled out and told to put on clothes or leave." She also said that in her righteous anger, despite that, what else could she even do about this? Since Madeline shared her story on Facebook and spoke about how she was treated unfairly over by the water park, and people all over the world have heard about it, the way she was treated by the staff at the Adventure Oasis water park was completely unacceptable. This was not the final outcome, despite popular belief. Even so, Madeline took the online name and shaming game to heart. While the employees might not fully understand the shortcomings in their acts, what else could she do besides that? She would just have to make this even more widely known, not for herself, but for all the other women out there who don't have the guts to do the same thing. Long story short, I called the media and will be on tonight's Local 41 News. Several people walked out while I waited outside for the newsman and told me how ridiculous this all was and complimented me on my swimsuit, she stated. "We are pleased that the shared story on Facebook has been quite impactful than she initially predicted." When the post got so much sympathy and support, Madeline thanked everyone on Facebook. It was astounding that so many people on the internet had supported her from all around the world. Madeline stated, "In addition to other countries already mentioned, I have now heard from Greece, China, Hong Kong, and received over 500 beautiful letters from Brazil. I have been wanting to see the world, and now the world is coming to me and sending much love." Madeline decided to share, "One thing I have learned so far is that there is a much greater viewpoint and perspective of the human body than what is to be found in Independence, Missouri, worldwide, and I thank and appreciate you for that." She also explicitly states, "Much love to those who express pride over shame for all shapes, sizes, in addition to various ages and stages of this beautiful human body we inhabit, our time on Earth." And yet, what did she expect to accomplish by putting the focus on the water park's unfair policies? "While I stand by my grievance that I was discriminated against at Adventure Oasis Water Park, and I do not believe it should happen again," she quipped, "it is not money that is going to correct the issue, but a change in the swimming park's appropriate swimming attire policy, and also an improvement involving better education and orientation of their park management. We'll have to accept that this is also the only way to better tackle problems there. Let's hope as soon as possible they'll hear her words of encouragement, and whether those are their standards, they ought to be implemented and understood equally and fairly." That being said, body positivity and acceptance are mostly on a steady increase and are being encouraged in today's day and age. Sad to say, this sort of thing happens worldwide. However, this next story is all the wilder. Sarah Villafane is a student who quite often works out in her college's student gym. She goes to the College of Charleston. She never really had any issues or problems at this gym up until this point. Following her classes for the day, she made her way there, but what she was told was not at all acceptable. On that day, Sarah had engaged in 3 classes in her current outfit, and she often was wearing gym clothes throughout the day. This is quite normal, as we often wear gym clothes on days filled with errands, and we feel we're finishing off the day with a session at the gym. Sarah wore a simple pair of black leggings along with a matching sleeveless black crop top. The shirt didn't even show much more of her stomach, and her leggings were high-waisted. This was certainly a common style, and it's usually the outfit of women who go to any fitness center. Sarah was doing her workout as usual when a gym employee confronted her. The employee stated that she ought to change her top, as it was scandalous. Sarah was caught off guard, and she could not begin to understand what the employee had been trying to insinuate. Anyway, what else is it she could do? Sarah merely mentioned to the employee she has no other top. She began her routine again and went to her workout as though nothing had occurred. Even though she felt somewhat ashamed, this was certainly not the end of the issue. She decided to move to the back corner of the gym where she had been on the ground working on her abs. To her shock and horror, she was confronted by another staff member. After she said, "I have a shirt on," she was asked by the employee to put her shirt back on. The employee answered back to that, "No, that is not a shirt. You have to wear a whole shirt." In reply, Sarah asked, "How is this not a shirt?" The staff member continues to say that she had to have a fully covered shirt. They said that if she has an issue with that, they have their boss on the site. Sarah just laughed and said if they were concerned, they should feel free to send him over. But instead, the workers went away. That's when Sarah was confronted by the gym's manager, who said she would have to leave the gym if she doesn't change her top. To Sarah, that was even more humiliating. It all occurred in front of other students in the fitness center. "I need you to put a shirt on or I'm going to have to ask you to leave," the manager, or boss, as they labeled him, told Sarah. "But I have a shirt on," Sarah said defensively. His immediate response was, "Are you going to put a shirt on?" Gym clothing is meant to be easy to wear, comfortable, and even sometimes reveal skin that helps to escape the heat while you're working out. During the decades at any gym, they were tight and flexible. We believe they used to be much more provocative than what Sarah used to wear. Sarah was shamefully forced to leave. With that being said, it was not the way the problem was meant to have been handled. The staff could have been friendlier and clarified that it wasn't them, but their policy, they were just following it. That was not the problem, though. Sarah has taken to Facebook to discuss the problem and share her frustrations. She was deeply upset. She talked about how this would be often considered athletic, and the top was considered as a sports bra. This indicates it should have been allowed. There should have been no criticism there. With some agreeing with Sarah and others agreeing with the gym, the conclusion swung in both directions. Others even brought up the fact that she would wear that for classes and said it was acceptable for the gym, but not for the class. I would question how appropriate they are for class or lectures or discussions with your professors, Carl Hogan added. Afterwards, the gym reached out and said they had a justifiable reason for dealing with this situation in the manner they did. That is why we believe the situation was just badly handled, as they should have described from the get-go what was the point. For sanitary purposes and as part of the dress code, the gym said covered t-shirts or vests are required. Even though dress code at the gym front states clearly athletic wear must be worn. Despite that, the staff briefly explained to her appearance and never addressed sanitization. Most of the remarks on Sarah's post have declared the same thing. Their college gyms encourage students to wear tops that don't cut off or crop to lessen physical contact with machines and equipment. Even from the beginning, the thought process seems credible. We think they should have explained this clearly. In addition, the staff should have been nicer and accommodating in the way of explaining to Sarah why those standards exist and what they are.